Hi, everyone. You are getting a little taste of my Become a Coach live masterclass that I have had that you can sign up for through my website to get a special, unique link to sign up for my full trauma informed coach certification that starts next month. And just to make things more accessible for you guys, we're going to post a part one, part two of that masterclass so that for some of you, it's just easier while you're out and about, driving kids around, hiking in the mountains, whatever it is, to listen and get a feel for not only what it takes to become a certified trauma informed coach, what's important to know about becoming a coach, how seriously we take it over here because we care about the humans, but also how you can do it and how accessible it can be for you and how you could literally have your own coaching practice by the beginning of 2025. So this is part one, and then we'll go with part two. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to How to Become a Coach Live. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm here. My goal is to answer all your questions. I'm here to support you and just help you feel as comfortable as possible as it can be when considering embarking upon a new career, right? It's a big deal. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen with you. And I always joke that we're talking today about how to become a certified life coach. And in my opinion, because I've been doing this for over half a decade, is not just any life coach, right? Where we just decide to slap that in coach on our Instagram profile or something like that, but a certified trauma informed life coach. This is really important in my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to hierarchize coaches or anything like that. And I do feel like it's really important to be trauma informed and nervous system informed so that you can appropriately meet your clients where they're at, support them with what they need with respect to proper and appropriate context and different things like that. And the thing about this certification that I love is that I'm going to teach you, you're going to get this amazing training and you're going to be able to start a new career, embark on a new career without overextending yourself and burning out, all while all while fitting this training into your current lifestyle, all while adding to your financial resources, thus providing more freedom, flexibility, and stability, which is huge. I don't know about you, but I have 3 kids. And so for me, I already had a pretty flexible career as an accountant, but I knew that the flexibility really mattered to me as I considered leaving corporate. And so I just want that's very possible for you to do. And you can do that while also getting access to a really supportive example network of like-minded people doing the same things, embarking on the same thing. Let's get into it. This call is for you. You might already know that this call is for you. If you're wondering if this calling of being a coach, if that word resonates with you, if you're wondering if that is resonant with you, it might be do you like helping people? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to combine your passion and gifts into a sustainable career that supports yourself and your loved ones financially? Do you love and enjoy spending time getting to know people and deeply connecting with them and also meeting other people that are similar to you who also like going deep? If these things resonate with you, or even if one of these things resonates with you, you are in the right place. All right. So, what we're going to talk about today, this is really helpful to understand, even if whether you're a coach or an entrepreneur or any sort, a lot of this stuff can be applied in varying industries, and it can also just apply if you're thinking about doing something with your career. And so what we'll talk about is challenges coaches might be facing in the industry today, but how these can be opportunities, especially as we show up as being trauma informed. Okay. Um, we're going to talk about mistakes that new coaches make and strategies that we will put in place to sidestep or avoid them. And we're also going to talk about why my program is different. Okay. There are a lot of certifications out there. And what I want to offer to you today is just reasons why my certification is different. Okay. A huge thing that I will speak to it as we go on, but really is just that we're not isolating mindset work. And that's one of the biggest limitations of some of the coaches that I see today is they see everything as a thought problem and not a body problem or a soul problem or a spirituality problem. The Western world we like to speak in boxes and containers, even with the language that we use. And the reality is that something that is emotional is physical, right? And that's why you can feel anxiety. You can feel emotionally anxious and feel it physically. And so really making sure we're not taking a one-dimensional approach and that we're using a multidimensional approach to meet ourselves where we're at so we can heal and grow in the way that we want to and set up our businesses and do the same for our clients. Okay. So we don't compartmentalize over here at Lindsay Pullman Coaching because it's just not who we are as humans. Okay. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's all I got. So this, as far as this slide. So we're going to talk about these different things today. And my promise to you is that you're going to walk away with more clarity around what you want for yourself. Is this the thing for me? That's what I want you to be checking in with yourself as we go through the call. What resonates? What feels true? What do I know? Okay. If you have noise, if there's a lot of noise and fear, like, oh, what are people going to think? Or what this, what that? Pay attention to what that fear is about because our brain likes homeostasis. And so anytime we do something new, it's going to send off some alert signals in our brain. They're like, no, we're fine. Don't change a damn thing. And at the same time, that can be happening, but we could still be actually heading in the right direction. And I know that was true for me as I came into this career. It was like, oh, but accounting, it's more stable. It's more this, it's more this, it's more this. Okay. But there was this deeper part of me that was like, this is the next thing. Like, so just pay attention. If it's more of a fear that just doesn't want things to change, just know that a lot of times fear is invested in surviving, which is amazing. And it's gotten you to where you are. And if you want to thrive, if you want to embark on a career that's hugely satisfying and rewarding with respect to your interests and things that you love, this might be the place for you. So this might be the most important hour of the rest of your life. And why am I saying that? Because you have taken the time to sign up for this call. And a lot of times it's like this butterfly thing, the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing that leads to the thing. This call might be the thing that leads you to potentially embark on a career where you can not only simultaneously do a lot of amazing work, self-help work for yourself, but also develop out your art and craft to help others. Okay. So take notes, keep track of questions, submit questions, and stay tuned for that special offer at the end, right? This could be the thing that changes the thing, that changes the thing, that changes the thing. Again, don't be afraid to submit and ask questions. That's what I'm here for. Okay. All right. So let's first talk about some of the challenges that we see. I would say that I have seen people experience in the coaching industry or reasons why people don't want to even enter the coaching industry. And one of those is inadequate training. All right. So what I see are people trying to help people who don't have proper training. And what does this do? This can bring up mistrust from consumers who have bad experiences. And sometimes with coaches too, if they've been taught in a way where they were taught that, hey, this one-dimensional model is the answer to every problem, right? If they've been taught that way and they believe that, and then their clients don't get the result that the client wants, that coach could inadvertently do harm and gaslight by telling them like, it's a you problem, right? You aren't applying these tools appropriately. When really it's up to us as coaches to make sure that we're being proactively aware of ways that we can meet our clients through appropriate training that helps us understand the context of trauma, understand our bodies more, understand nervous system work, stuff like that. Okay. Another challenge that people see or are worried about is a growing industry. And I'll get to how these can be opportunities, by the way. Technological advances. And this is a big one that I see, lack of contextual understanding. So non-inclusive coaching techniques. Okay. So those are some of the challenges that we see. And what I see as the big opportunity, like what the reality is, those things could be there, but also how can we move through this and not worry about the training stuff when we acquire a trauma-informed lens, right? Through a program like mine, where everything is taught, where all the instructional calls are taught live and whatnot, okay? And a growing industry, right? I think 10, 20 years ago, did I know what a life coach was? A little bit, but I didn't really know too much about it. And now we're seeing more coaches on our radar, which is amazing. And what some people worry about is, oh, there are too many coaches. The market's too saturated. Why would I be able to make a living or sustain my family or who am I to help people to be that person that people would pay to heal and to grow in whatever way that they want to. And what I see is the collective consciousness shifting. Okay. People are becoming more aware, more emotionally aware. They're becoming smarter consumers and they're ready for more. They're ready to go deeper. And not only are they ready for it, they're demanding it. Okay. As a trauma informed coach, you are going to stand out because when you become a trauma informed coach and you acquire a trauma informed lens, your diction changes, your wording changes, and you might be able to express something in a way that someone else hasn't put words to. And people are ready to go deeper. And I don't think the supply of coaches is too much for the demand. The demand is growing, and I think it's growing at a pretty rapid pace. People are looking for support in these ways. And there are people that only you can reach. Okay. And I'll speak more to this on the next slide. So one thing that people worry about are technological advances. We worry that technological advances will replace humans, replace therapists, replace coaches, replace accountants. And what I want to offer to you is, and I've already seen this over the last more than half decade of being a coach. As a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, these technological advances will work in your favor. Okay. When you are just getting things off the ground, you are going to be able to use AI to minimize admin work until you get to a place where you can hire somebody. That is so amazing. Okay. You don't have to hire somebody right away. You are going to have to put in so much less sweat equity than I did. And the other thing too is no matter how much technology advances, no one can replace you. No one can replace your soul. Your soul is what people are seeking. And as you feel safe enough to be and express and sell in a way that feels honored, feels like honorably aligned, it just feels aligned to who you are, in alignment with who you are, people are going to find that. It's almost just like you're going to be sending out a vibration, right? That's going to magnetize your people to you. Okay. Another thing that I see, another challenge in the industry, and I would say just in the world today, because this doesn't happen with only coaches. Okay. It happens with coaches, it happens with therapists, it happens with doctors, it happens with families. And what that challenge is not having appropriate contextual understanding to meet people where they're at. And this isn't inclusive. Okay. And I'll talk a little bit more about this as the call goes on, but it's one thing to have lived experience and be like, yeah, I've been through some shit. I've been through some real stuff. Now I can help people. I know I can. If you feel that way, I believe you. I believe you and thank you because we need more of you in the world. Okay. And when we think that our lived experience, which is just a sliver in the fabric of humanity, that how we got through it is the way everyone else can get through it, we're projecting and presuming that people are starting at the same baseline as us, and no one starts at the same baseline. Okay. There may be a sliver of humanity who starts at a close enough baseline for you to help. So I'm not going to discount that. But what I've seen is sometimes if we think that how we did it is the way everyone else should do it, people can come away harmed because it's about if you're not getting the results, it's because you didn't do it my way. Okay. So it's not inclusive of the broader fabric of humanity. Okay. Now here's the deal. When you can use your experience and marry it with proper, appropriate trauma-informed training while understanding the context, with respect to humanity, you'll be unstoppable because you'll know how to you'll utilize and weave in your experience in a way that does meet more people where they're at. You'll use qualifiers that helps people see that you recognize people come from different spaces. You'll be unstoppable. Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Those are some of again, we talked about the challenges, but how they don't have to be challenges. Okay. And how they can be opportunities for you to capitalize on as you become trauma informed. Okay. And I feel like for me, I felt a lot of feelings when I became a coach too, because I came from a pretty highly educated background. And so going from something like a CPA with a master's degree to a life coach, a lot of people couldn't see that. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in my story, but it's been amazing to some of these challenges I've had to go through. But because of my willingness to dial into my intuition, my soul, my knowing, and get appropriate support where needed, and have colleagues who I really trust and can bounce these ideas off of. A lot of this stuff has, again, enabled me to stand out as a coach so that I can help as many people as I want to. Okay. So I'm going to talk about my story, my journey from corporate to entrepreneurship, but it wasn't this linear. It looked more like this. My journey from graduate school to corporate to having a baby, becoming a homemaker, having two more babies, husband getting sick, having mental breakdown, and becoming non-functioning, going back to corporate, and then to coaching, then to entrepreneurship. Okay. So I'm going to share a little more details about my story. But what I want you to pay attention to is not me and, oh, wow, here's Lindsay's hero's journey. That's not what it's about. I'm going to share my journey because my goal is for you to listen and pay attention to how you feel as you hear it. What feels true to me? What's resonant with me? How can I relate to this? What about her story reminds me of my story? We're always self-applying subconsciously. And I'm just asking you if you want to try to consciously be like, yeah, maybe for her, it was this and this way. And for me, it can be this and this way. Okay. Really just want you to think about your hero's journey as I'm speaking, and the goal is for you to open up that can almost take the lid off of any containers of like limitations that you might have so that you can go into this more exploratory, limitless space of limitless possibility. Okay. So the way I grew up in a high demand religion, and I grew up in a very check the box, upper middle class, check the box culture, right? Where it was like, you get the degree, make sure you get an education, get a degree, find a partner, he'll take care of you. You have kids, you be a homemaker, you follow him around with respect to his career, yada, 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 and don't complain. And voila, there's your amazing life. And you'll get the house in the neighborhood, you'll get the kids at the good schools, and then your kids will go off and do amazing things. I showed up, y'all. I did those things. I checked the hell out of those boxes. I checked them off. Varsity sports in high school, high honors in high school. I got into a very competitive university, and I got a pretty technical undergraduate degree, lots of math because my dad was really set on me having a skill set, a technical skill. And then I graduated, and before finding a job, I went and did some volunteer work in Thailand, which is where I met my current partner. I met him there. He had just started at BYU and had just finished an LDS church mission. And we were volunteering in Thailand together and became really good friends. And from there, and I could tell you more about that. It's a whole other story. But basically, we dated, we got serious, we got married, and we both had our little check boxes, and we just kept checking off those amazing boxes. And he had them too. And after we got married, he decided he wanted to become a dentist. And we were like, yeah, all right, let's do this thing. So while he was doing all the prereqs to get into dental school, I applied and got into graduate school, into a master's of accountancy program. I was able to wrap that up before he started dental school. I was able to acquire a remote offer from one or two big four accounting firms so that anywhere my husband got into dental school, I could have an offer. So I worked, and then so we moved to LA. I worked for 3 years, had a baby, tried going back to work. Part-time was so not part-time. It's ridiculous. And so I quit my job, and I was just like, okay, this is actually easier. Having a baby is easier than working slave hours at a big four accounting firm in downtown LA. And so for me, that's how it was. I'm not going to say it's like that for everybody because every kid is different, but I really thought that was it. All right. Like, I'm going to be a homemaker. I can do this homemaker thing. I can have the babies. I'm pretty social already. So I was feeling very socially fulfilled with all the other moms around. I trained to become a spin instructor because that just sounded fun, even though it paid like $10 an hour or something like that. It was just fun, right? So I was doing all those things, and we had two more kids, and we moved back to Utah to be by our family, and we bought the house in a nice neighborhood, and we put our kids were in the nice schools. Our kids were in some of the best preschools in the area, reading and writing by age 4 or 5. And after having when our third was about 4 months old, my husband had a complete breakdown, like a total mental breakdown. Before the breakdown, he told me about some porn use that he'd been lying to me about, which in our religious culture, that's a pretty big deal. So I was reeling over him the news of him lying to me for years about porn use. And then within a week, he started having panic attacks and stopped working. And within 3 weeks, I knew that he wasn't getting better anytime soon. I was just like, he is not going back to work anytime soon. Luckily, we had a little bit of savings. And so I knew we could make it through Christmas, but I also knew, okay, I'm going to have to start looking for work. I don't know why I'm smiling because it was not something I was excited about at the time. And thanks to my degree, I was able to find two really amazing jobs, and I definitely hedged a little bit. I probably didn't need to take both jobs, but I did. So I was working two part-time gigs, one for a public accounting firm in Salt Lake City and one for a derivative accounting firm based out of Silicon Valley. And basically, I was working and felt and couldn't be around my kids the way that I wanted to and trying to help my husband survive. And it took maybe 6 to 10 months, and maybe more, around 10 months to get him stabilized on his meds. So it really became a matter of helping him survive in the beginning. And then once he was more stable, then I started working through my betrayal trauma around the porn use. And then a lot of other stuff came up. A lot of his childhood trauma came to a head that really affected things for both of us. It was just so foggy. It was so foggy. I was totally in a foggy fog of survival, and it was really hard. And 2 years into that, I was still working and my husband was not working. And in my head at the time, he was not healing on my timeline. And I was really frustrated about it. I really was. I was just like, look, I'm killing myself off here. I've got two jobs. We have a house and the house to take care of and kids to take care of. Like, it was just so much. It was too much for me. And I remember getting to this really low point where I just thought, if I am going to work for 30 years, like, I love myself too much to do something that I'm not passionate about. And from there, it was this kind of low point where I knew I decided that I was choosing my marriage every day. And so I wanted to feel empowered in that. And I also it opened me up to what else is there for me. And at the time, I had these two artist friends who their art was their passion, it was their therapy, it was their outlet. They got paid for it. And it was like a hobby. And I remember just watching them with their art thinking, gosh, it's like a 5 for 1 or like a 4 for 1. And for me, accounting wasn't that. Even though for a lot of people it is, it wasn't for me. So I remember just thinking, what is that for me? What is that? And that's when I found coaching. And I just thought, wow, could I really do this? Could I help people? Maybe I can be the guide that I didn't have. Because I've been scrambling through and like trying to find my way through these past couple of years. How can I make that process more easy and manageable for people? And so that's where I found coaching. And then from there, I was coaching a lot of women whose husbands looked at porn use. And then I started having coaches hire me for random things that weren't associated with their husband's porn use, just things that going on in their lives and whatnot. And from there, what I started seeing is basically that all the parallels of trauma that people were experiencing to varying degrees, not just because of their partner's porn use. And so when I started seeing all these parallels with all my clients, I just thought, wow, like, everybody needs this. This isn't just for women who have been lied to with respect to their partner's porn use. So many people, if more people understood trauma and the nervous system, like, the world would be healed. Like, would mental illness even exist if we all knew how to regulate our nervous system and honor our bodies, right? That's a huge deal. And so that's why I put together this curriculum, the original curriculum. I put it together for people who are already coaches to help them become trauma informed. And then I started having demand from old clients to do my advanced curriculum that I put together with a trauma therapist. They wanted to do my advanced curriculum, but they had to go find a regular certification first. And so what I realized is, hey, what if instead of unwinding the certification tools that they use, we just start with a trauma-informed mindset base from the get-go? What if we just start there? So this is where we are. I just finished up with my first cohort. They're all in the certification process right now. And it's just been amazing. It's been amazing to see how they hold space for each other, how they love each other, how they care about each other, and all the different things that they want to do as coaches, all the people that they want to help. Some of them are just have the most brilliant ideas of how they want to seed or weave coaching into what they're already doing as entrepreneurs. Oh, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. And I just want you to know that and I might need to sneeze in a second, but if you have a desire to change things up, if you have a desire to do something different with your life and help people and see if there's a way that you can provide for yourself and your loved ones while doing it, it is absolutely possible in the coaching world. Okay. It's possible. I'm an example of it. I've done a fair amount of it through, I did a lot of individual coaching and then I switched to these trainings. But my partner he's found a way he has made multiple six figures just doing one on one coaching. It's keeping it really simple and bringing in X amount of clients each month. So it's possible, and it's possible to do it your way. Okay. God, universe doesn't mess around with desires there because it's possible. So think about how you relate. Think about what questions you have. You can put them in the question box and I'll answer them either at the end or as we go. But I just want you to know that this is good stuff. And I would love to have you in this group because I think you would really benefit from these tools. And it's just amazing too, because you get to self-apply. It's not just about, yes, we're helping others, but how do people usually best help others? It's when they learn how to help themselves. Okay. Which I'll get into. All right. So let's talk about what does it take to become a certified coach? Okay. Here is what you need in order to become a certified coach. And the reason that I say this is sometimes people try to overcomplicate it. And I want to tell you that it can be simple. And if you want to be a successful standout coach, then it doesn't mean it's all going to be roses and daisies and dandelions. Okay. So I just want to be real with you with respect to that. I was just talking to some coaches today about how I have a very forward facing approach to healing and to doing any trauma work. And becoming an entrepreneur brings up a certain flavor of obstacles as we're moving forward and healing as humans. But it doesn't mean those obstacles wouldn't be there if we weren't moving forward and moving closer to what it is that we want. And for me, I'm just choosing the flavor of obstacles that happen to come up with being an entrepreneur. Okay. So here are the things that you need to have or be willing to acquire to, become a certified trauma-informed coach. And in my opinion, a standout coach. Okay. So we talked about, we'll get into these: acquiring a trauma-informed mindset, being willing to apply these tools to yourself in your life, being willing to edge, which I'll get into, and learning how to create enough safety in your body to put your work out in the world. Because it's one thing to learn and apply, but it's another thing to learn the difference between just the discomfort of doing something new, even though it's right for you, versus vulnerability hangovers and stuff like that. Okay. With that, we're going to talk about 4 big mistakes that people do make when they become coaches, why it makes sense, and how my program is going to just help you sidestep those. All right. We just wrapped up part 1 of 2. So stay tuned for part 2 of 2 so that you can see some of the big mistakes that coaches make in the coaching industry today, why it makes sense, but also how my program will help you avoid them and sidestep them in the first place, because they're mistakes you don't need to make. On the next podcast episode, you'll also get some frequently asked questions answered as well. So stay tuned.